On this episode of the show, I have with me Steve Wunker. He is Managing Director at New Markets Advisors. And we're going to be talking about, well, business and AI. We're going to be talking a little bit about how the issue around silos don't work for either party. Talk about that unlock. Business is going to have to understand what it can get delivered from technology and their role within that and how they're going to have to balance that relationship, and also talk about support, ongoing maintenance, a lot of continuous involvement in some of these projects, and we'll have Steve explain a bunch of those areas to me. But Steve, thanks for taking the time.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. All right, New Markets Advisors, what do you guys do?
Look, we focus on disruptive innovation, the innovation with a capital I. Oftentimes that's the strategy, but it's also in the operations of companies. I've been working in the AI field for over a dozen years. We've done a lot of projects with incorporating both AI into a customer value proposition as well as into the operations of companies.
Fantastic. You've seen this from different angles and different ways, and I'm excited to get into this with you. So I guess we're talking about the AI, we're talking about the enterprise, and we're talking about business. I guess this is one situation we normally haven't seen, or maybe I haven't seen it, but you normally don't see business worrying too much about the technology, right? Most of the time they have a problem, they're like, just fix it. They don't really care. I guess this is a case where we're hearing a lot about business going, hey, can this AI solve this problem? Can I use AI? And obviously they have access to various AI tools at home, in their day. So it becomes natural that they go, hey, obviously this AI thing might be able to help. Is that a fair assessment of what's happening, or is that actually what's happening out there?
Well, look, I agree. I think people are very enthused about the technology, but they're coming at this from two directions, both of which are a little mistaken. On the one hand, they're saying, we've got AI, now let's figure out all the places we can use it, which is a hazardous thing to just go push a technology, oblivious of the problems. And then they're also trying to uncover very micro use cases, which is fine, but what that leads to is 900 pilots across the enterprise, which are often not optimally configured, they're not maintained, they're not evaluated, and so you get a lot of distraction. What organizations should be doing is identifying a handful of big challenges that might be strategic, that might be operational, that AI can play a role in solving. It's probably not the only way to go solve it. There might be a combination of ways. And for sure, it's probably not just the technology. It's the workflows. It's how people interrelate to each other. There's a lot of organizational and personal change that has to occur, not just technological change. But if you can focus in on a handful of important use cases, then you can really move the needle in those cases. And you'll get the organization to learn about AI in a way that is actually going to be productive and constructive for future usage, because the results are much more likely to be positive.
That's as you kind of mentioned, looking for use cases, and we're talking about trying to understand what processes are going to be impacted, right? I think that's going to become a growing conversation of where the functional understanding of these issues are, not just how do we fix them, because there's a lot more replacing knowledge, which means you need to understand knowledge. When you think about technology's role, IT department's role within this shift in getting more AI projects live. Obviously, companies are at different stages all over the map, but just looking at that and looking at IT's involvement, what does their role look like? Is it what's been traditionally? Is it going to evolve? Has it already been changing and shifting?
So it needs to be much more strategic and continual. IT cannot just be the order taker. So IT can help make the business aware of what AI, or sometimes AI plus other technologies, can do, and then work with people in the business to figure out, okay, so what does that really mean? Let's not just go swap out X for Y. Let's not replace a steam-powered machine with an electric machine. Let's think about how can we invent the assembly line and really revolutionize productivity, or whatever it is that they're trying to go after. So that's on the one side, that more strategic lens. But then also, look, AI is just different than creating a standard IT system. It requires a lot more training. It requires a lot more updating, right? Evaluation. AI ops is different than DevOps. There's a lot of differences that IT has to change the way they operate in order to really get the most out of what the technology offers.
Companies that are successful are ahead. I think success is difficult to also maybe measure, right? But companies that are further ahead, further along within implementing and getting AI into production, what are they doing that's different and or better than the companies that are not right now?
So I think they're looking at it as an organizational challenge, not as a technology challenge. In the book, we talk about travelers insurance. Now, an unusual thing about travelers is that the CTO is also the COO. And she is really driving an operational change in how risk is evaluated, for instance. And that involves not only bringing in the technology, but working with underwriters to use these tools and change the workflows so that they can get the most out of things. You don't want to necessarily optimize your 12-step process. You want to make it a 3-step process, for instance. So that sort of organizational capability, I think, has been very important for travelers. Another example is Procter & Gamble. And by the way, I'm consciously choosing things that are not Silicon Valley darlings here, right? P&G is nobody's Silicon Valley darling. It's over 150 years old. And yet it has really wholeheartedly embraced AI. Now, one way in which they've done that is by linking it to something they were already trying to do, which was called the outcome-oriented organization. So P&G has been traditionally very siloed, like most 150-year-old companies have been. But they are switching to cross-functional teams, much like a tech company would be run. And there are equivalents of PMs, product managers, who are really trying to drive those cross-functional teams. You've got marketing and packaging and ops all together in one cross-functional team. AI helps to de-silo by making unstructured data structured and by bringing the right data to the right people at the right time. So they've leaned hard into AI for an existing business purpose, but they've been using it to rethink how the essence of the organization operates. And that's been quite successful as well.
I'm going to come back to that. Obviously, you referred to your book. You've written a book on this, and obviously love the title, AI in the Octopus Organization, Building the Superintelligent Firm. People are probably going to first and foremost go, AI in the Octopus Organization. Why Octopus?
So my co-author, Jonathan Brill, is the futurist at Amazon. And he's been talking for about 4 years on the model of cognition that an octopus has. We were looking for a framing analogy for the book, and actually the octopus is perfect for AI. An octopus has 9 brains. It has one central brain and a brain for each of its arms. And 2/3 of the neural tissue in an octopus is actually outside of its central brain. It's in the arms and the rest of the body. So the octopus thinks in a completely different way than humans do. But it's a great analogy for AI with distributed intelligence and what that then enables. So in an octopus, one arm might be opening up a clam and another one's exploring a cave. And the central brain is thinking, how do I get away from that shark? And then the shark gets a little bit closer, and the central brain can suddenly coordinate all the arms to work in unison to get away from the shark as fast as possible. That's what an AI age organization needs to be able to do. It needs to operate massively in parallel, with one arm knowing what the other one is doing, but also doing its own thing. And then when they need to coordinate, it needs to be instantly synchronized to do that. So if organizations can act a lot more like octopuses, they're going to be a lot more flexible and adaptable to succeed in the AI age.
I love that. That's actually It's a great visual. I think if anybody's ever seen an octopus and they just kind of listen to what you were saying, you're like, okay, I can see the AI in the octopus organization fitting. And you mentioned, I mean, you're using some examples of companies that are not what we consider high-tech companies, right? They're not going to be mistaken for the Metas or the NVIDIAs. You're talking about companies, a 150-year-old company. They're leveraging AI to do and move the needle. When you look at that and you look at companies that are looking at this opportunity, I think there is a gap forming between companies that are executing and companies that are just still trying to figure out where they apply. And it is a big thing. AI is huge. And sometimes you run the risk of trying to pick up too many things at once because it is a muscle. It is a different way of thinking. I mean, when you think about starting points and healthy starting points for organizations, how does an organization get there? Because obviously you just mentioned, a couple examples of AI working. But if I'm not there yet, and there's companies that are not there yet, what do I do to kind of replicate success? How do I start to get to a point where I can actually get stuff in production?
So I think the best way to start is start with where you want to go. And a lot of companies haven't figured that out. They're starting with where they are, and then they're saying, okay, well, what's realistic to achieve in the next 6 months or next year? But there's no clear destination. Let me give you an example of, it's an online company, but it's also not quite Silicon Valley, HelloFresh. So HelloFresh is the world's largest meal kit delivery company. And they did great in the pandemic. And then afterwards, things sort of faded away, and they needed to keep their relevance up with customers. So they thought about what is the value proposition. Historically, people would be given what the company called the binder of choices for your meals for the next month. And then they would maybe do substitutions. So they know that you substitute chicken for pork, and I like things a little bit spicy. Fine. But they wouldn't really do much with that data. So they revolutionized the value prop to bring people 5 to 10 choices that are tailored for them based upon previous choices they've made and how they've rated previous meals. So they're actually making use of the data, using to strategic advantage the fact that they are the world's largest meal kit delivery company and they have more data than anybody else. So, okay, great. They reevaluated what they are going to propose, but then everything ricocheted from there. So the kitchens are no longer preparing 40 or 50 meal variants for a week. They're preparing thousands of them, which means that jobs change. A production manager is no longer figuring out on Excel the production schedule for the week, because with thousands of meals, that's just impossible for a human to do. So AI does that. And that means the managers, instead of doing that planning, they are supervising the model. They're making sure that context is in the model that should be, right? Maybe it doesn't understand everything. Maybe, occasionally they'll override, but their job has fundamentally become a different one. It's still necessary, but it's a different one. And even what full functions are doing, sourcing no longer has to look at 20 ingredients. It might look at 200 ingredients to source for a week. But they started with the end in mind. And that allowed them to be really revolutionary in how they think about the potential of AI, not just very meekly evolutionary. Unfortunately, many more companies are doing the meek evolution path.
Yeah, that's really interesting because we do have a lot of companies with a lot of data. And I guess in the case of HelloFresh, they realized that there was a different lens to look at the problem, and they saw they had the data to support it. Technology is there to help deliver. Obviously, that's what they're going to do. And traditionally, technology has been, the relationship with business has been, let's help you understand, and then you go off and come back and show me. You go off and come back and show me. I think that might be okay in my mind when we're talking about applications. I think when we're talking about providing a different level of, I don't want to use the word business process reengineering because that's old school.
I'll take it back.
But Listen, we got to bring it back. I think we got to run that term back, because I think what we are going to see is business processes being re-engineered in a way that actually we can actually start measuring. Because I think that measurement part has been really hard for companies to go, am I getting X value out of this investment? And that maybe is my other question is, as we're looking at AI solutions, ROI has to be there. Boards and C-suites are going to be accountable for these investments. Are these companies set up to understand and to what degree that ROI is there? I mean, obviously, I hope they're measuring it. I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but what are they doing to be able to measure that their spend is actually affecting their bottom line, or whatever it is that they're measuring? I mean, who knows what that is?
So a well-chosen focal area should, of course, have metrics of success and milestones and everything else. If you have 900 pilots, you probably don't do that. And so you have no idea if these pilots are being successful or not. And you're not giving them the attention to get the ROI out of them either. So I think focus is essential to get there. But then, if there's no metric for a focal area, that's a really troubling thing. You should have pre and post measurements, and some might be softer and squishier about employee engagement, for instance, and some can be much harder. One real success of AI systems in frontline applications has been in medical scribes. So silently listening in to doctor-patient conversations in consult meetings. There are very clear metrics there of success. Employee engagement is up about 80%. The quality of doctor-patient interactions measured by things like, does the patient retain much of what the doctor told them? That is up 44%. So these are very clear measurements, and that has fueled a very rapid uptake of AI in that use case. So yes, you need to look at the hard metrics and maybe some of the softer metrics, but you certainly need to have metrics.
Absolutely. I guess as you're looking about around where companies are, so obviously proof of concepts, this muscle memory, getting the business involved, driving the right solutions. Is this a different type of application for technology teams to support? Are they supporting these AI solutions as they have been in the past? Is it going to require a different approach? What are your thoughts there?
Well, it's a great question, right? Because yes, it absolutely is. The AI is always learning. It's always changing. The results, depending on it, whether it's predictive or generative, but the results may be always shifting as well. The data that you're using is going to be always shifting. So yes, you cannot date your AI system. You sort of need to get married to it. It is an ongoing commitment. And that means that tech teams can't be overcommitting, right? They need to ensure that they're going to be present enough to make these whatever they're developing effective over the longer term. So job roles then in tech teams need to change as well.
Love that. Do you see? I guess maybe maybe a last question here, but do you start seeing IT's relationship with business? I mean, if we were to look at where that little line in the sand is, it's kind of ebbed and flowed over many years where business tries to move into, or IT tries to move into, and seemingly, as we're looking at AI, some of the relationship has to change as a business-driven focus. When you're looking at that relationship, that partnership, how is it a 50-50 balance? Is this require a little bit more from business than typical? I mean, what does that look like from your viewpoint?
Well, the business needs to get highly invested in it. The only way it's going to be a success is if the business adapts what it's doing, doesn't just plug IT into what they're currently doing, but it needs to, again, think of the assembly line, not just swap out one machine for another machine, which is happening all the time, by the way. They're just doing the swap out, not really thinking about the system. And then there needs to be that commitment for the ongoing success as well. So yeah, business needs to make a commitment, and IT also needs to make a commitment to the systems, which means you can't be doing 900 systems. You need to have, again, that focus. And hopefully you're thinking about some big things to focus on, not a lot of incremental things.
Love it. I guess maybe final thought on this before we let you go. When you're looking at what's to come, obviously things have moved very quickly. We weren't talking about AI in production not too long ago. It's, see everyone racing as hard as they can not to be left behind. Does that have to be the trend at this point? I mean, is it a bit of Pandora's box? Are we still at a phase of, we're still testing, we're still understanding? There's a chance that it's not as ready as we're hoping. I mean, are there? I guess what are your thoughts? I mean, you hear so many different ways AI is working, and then you also hear about how many different projects are not actually making it out the door.
Right. My fear is that we're going to repeat what I saw at the start of my career in 96 with the .coms. 96, 97, oh, gee, this web stuff is interesting. Let's put our brochures online. 98, 99, oh, the sky is falling. We have to do something massive right now. So we had our little pilots, and now we've had a client recently come down with a mandate from the C-suite. We want to cut our headcount in this function by 50% using AI. Maybe that's a little dramatic. Maybe we should start out at, 20%. Something that might be a little more easily achievable. And I mean, think big, right? But don't destroy the organization in the process. So people, unfortunately, are guardrailing. They're going from very cautious pilot to massive edicts from Mount Olympus. And they need to have a much more measured, somewhat medium-term plan, the 3 to 5 year plan on what are you going to do. And yeah, the technology is going to surprise us. Things are going to change. But the organizations will change more slowly than the technology will. So that process of organization change needs to be plotted out in a considerate way. Otherwise, we're going to have these two extremes, neither of which is healthy.
Absolutely. Love it. See, that's some fantastic advice and insights, and obviously, congrats on the book and how well it's been received. I guess tell us a little bit about where can people find it? How can people get in touch if they have a follow up? And those good things.
Sure thing. Well, the website for the book is aiandtheoctopus.com. The book is exclusive to Amazon, but you can very easily find it there. It's doing quite well. And it's available in all formats, including audiobook. My contact details are on the website. You can also just reach out to me on LinkedIn. I do reply to email. So please, I'm eager to hear from people what they think and what questions they have.
Awesome. Fantastic. I do appreciate the time. And that's it for this episode. Be back again. Different guest, different topic. Until then, two things. One, hopefully you guys will go out and grab a copy of AI in the Octopus Organization. Seems like it is a very good read if you are in the space and trying to figure some of these different AI pieces out. And please share this episode with someone else who might benefit from it. I'd appreciate that greatly. Also, like, subscribe, comment. Let me know how the show's going for you. Until next time, thank you and goodbye.